Hi guys, Olive here today to tell you what is on my May 2018 TBR. I realized recently that since I posted my life update video, which I did about a month ago, I haven't provided any updates on anything that I talked about in that video. In that video, I mentioned that I was up for a promotion and that I may be traveling for work soon. Well, in the month that has passed since I posted that video, I did end up getting the promotion and I am starting to travel for work. I did mention both things on Twitter, but I know not everybody follows me there, so I wanted to say it here as well, especially because it's going to have an impact on my reading over the next few months. As my work travel is going to include quite a bit of driving, I am going to be structuring in some books to my monthly TBRs that I know I can get on audiobook. One book that I know I'll be listening to on one of my many upcoming drives is The Incarnations by Susan Barker. I have had this book on Audible for quite a long time and just haven't gotten around to listening to it. This book is a mixture of magical realism and historical fiction and draws heavily upon Chinese folklore. I believe I had heard Liberty Hardy from over at Book Riot speak really highly about this one. And then when I spoke about it the last time on this channel, someone, I forget who, warned me that it is a little bit darker than the synopsis makes it out to be. I am 100% fine with darker books, but I probably would have been surprised to find it so dark because the synopsis definitely does not make it out to be a very dark book. But I am glad I received that warning, and I'm really excited to listen to it. The book that I will be picking up off of my Classics TBR for 2018 is North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. I'm going to be buddy reading this one with Britta. I loved the buddy read we did of The Age of Innocence back in February, so I'm really looking forward to reading this one with her. I read Wives and Daughters around this time last year, and it ended up being my favorite book of the entire year. I have heard this one is excellent, if not quite as accomplished as Wives and Daughters, and that the plot is basically Pride and Prejudice, but set during the Industrial Revolution. I hope Britta is ready to hear me gushing, because I have a feeling I'm going to adore this. The book I'll be picking up off of my Young Professional TBR is This Is Where You Belong, The Art and Science of Loving the Place You Live by Melanie Warnock. As I have spoken about on this channel several times previously, I just very recently moved into a new place, so I thought, what better time to pick this one up? Another book that I'll be picking up in May is White Oleander by Fitch. I have this very old movie tie-in edition. Basically what I know about this book is that it is the story of a young girl who has a lot of family issues and ends up in the foster care system. This is a book that I've heard many people speak very highly of, including Sabrina over at Unmanaged Mischief. I have nothing but respect for her taste in books, so I have been wanting to pick this one up ever since she gave it a rave review. I knew I wanted to read this book this year, and I decided that May would be a good time for me to do so, because around 2 years ago in May, when I was moving into my last apartment, I read and really fell in love with The Language of Flowers by Vanessa Diffenbaugh. I ended up being really surprised by how much I loved that book. And since this one has somewhat similar plot elements, and I have The Language of Flowers on the brain right now because this is the time of year in which I read it for the first time, I thought this would be a good time to pick this book up. I'm also planning to read Tamed and Untamed: Close Encounters of the Animal Kind by Cy Montgomery and Elizabeth Marshall Thomas. It feels like it's been a while since I've last picked up a book about animals. Maybe that's not actually true, but it feels that way, and so I'm feeling the itch to pick up this one. And I want to pick up this one in particular because it is co-authored by the author of one of my favorite nonfiction books of all time, The Soul of an Octopus. And then I am finally planning to pick up The Power by Naomi Alderman. This won last year's Bailey's Women's Prize for Fiction. It's actually kind of funny because this time last year, I picked up the 2016 winner of the Bailey's Prize, which was The Glorious Heresies by Lisa McInerney. So now this year, I'm picking up last year's winner. Maybe in 2019, I'll be reading 2018's winner, if it sounds interesting. I'm very up to date on book prizes, as you can tell. Over the past year, since this book won the Bailey's Prize, I've heard really intriguing, but also very conflicting things about this book. Some people really loved it, and other people thought that it didn't accomplish what it sought to accomplish. Ever since I started hearing people talk about this book last year, before it even won the Bailey's Prize, I've been very interested to see on which side of the spectrum I'm going to fall with this book. And carrying on with the apparent theme of this TBR video, which is just me picking books that remind me of books that I've read in the past and really enjoyed, I'm also planning to pick up The Deadbeat. Lost Souls, Lucky Stiffs, and the Perverse Pleasures of Obituaries by Marilyn Johnson. Back in March, I read and really loved Smoke It's in Your Eyes by Caitlin Doughty, and ever since then I've been wanting to pick up some more macabre nonfiction. This is a book about Marilyn Johnson's efforts to go out into the world and find the most interesting obituaries. I have a feeling that this one is going to be similar to Smoke It's in Your Eyes, in that I think it's going to be entertaining, a little disturbing, but very, very funny. And the only thing left to do is to pick the random book off of my TBR. If you've never seen me do this, what I do is go to my to-read shelf on Goodreads, use a random number generator to select 3 different options of books to read, and then I select one of those 3 to read for the month. My first option is Wide Open by Nicola Barker. It's really interesting that one of her books ended up being one of my options for my random pick, considering that her latest release was longlisted for the Women's Prize this year. Option number 2 is The Almost Nearly Perfect People, Behind the Myth of the Scandinavian Utopia by Michael Booth. And option number 3 is The Last Tsar, The Life and Death of Nicholas II by Edvard Rudzinski. It has been a very, very long time since I've read anything about Nicholas II. And although I know a lot about him, I don't know if I've read a book that is entirely about just him. I've read a ton about him and his family and him in the context of the revolution. So I think I'm going to have to go with this one. So those are all of the books that I am planning to read in May. I might end up adding a few more to this list, depending on what my schedule looks like and what becomes available on Overdrive. I am very new to this traveling for work thing, so I don't know how it's going to affect my reading, if I'm going to get more reading done or less reading done. I'm just going to have to see how it plays out. If you've read any of these books, if you've heard about any of these books, or if you want to read them after hearing me talk about them, I would love to hear from you in the comments section below. Or if you'd like to chat with me somewhere other than YouTube, I am on a variety of different places on social media, and the links to all of my profiles, as always, are linked in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.